Good morning, everyone, and or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our meeting of Monday, August 23rd. As always, I have muted all the lines, and you have the ability to unmute yourself if you have questions for our speaker today, or if you have announcements later on in the meeting. Once again, as you were warned when you joined the meeting, this meeting is being recorded up until the Sergeant at Arms. After the Sergeant at Arms, the meeting is not being recorded, but until then, it is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel. The first order of business today is the introduction of our speaker, John Martineau, who is from the Hyde Park Rotary Club. And John has lived in the London area off and on since 1967, with stints in Toronto, Calgary, Barrie, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and has also worked as a volunteer teacher in Guyana in South America. John graduated with honors in mechanical engineering from Forsythe Tech in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and he has managed in a variety of sectors, including engineering, manufacturing, hospitality, childcare, and retail. His hobbies include nature photography, exampled by his talk today, and he draws, paints, carves wood, and creates video. He currently works as a job coach and developer with Goodwill Industries in London. And I will turn over control to you now, John, and you can show off your photos and video. And you will need to unmute yourself first.
Do that. Okay. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you all for being interested in this. I had shown it to the Hyde Park group. They were very interested in the wildlife in the London area. Since about 2007, I had moved to the Kilworth area, and I was living there, and I was fortunate to be back onto the Thames River, and I started wandering the woods and became fascinated with the amount of wildlife that was in that area, and fascinated by what actually is within our boundaries of the city. So I thought I'd put together something to just show you. I've since added another star to this. I don't know if I just start the video now, Don, it will run then?
You need to share your screen first.
Oh, okay. So share screen, and we've been, okay. And there. All right. So everybody sees it now, I guess?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'll start it. So I have since added another star to the Coves area that will be down around Berkshire Village there, but I go through each area and what I found in them. Now you're going to see a lot of deer, but all different types of deer. They all tend to have their own personalities and looks. But so I had lived, like I said, in the Kilworth area, and so that's situated just west of the Hunt Club. And I started recording videos. Now this is a little artsy type video, and it was in the back. I started doing a time-lapse photography of the area, and you can see the differences in the type of deer that are in that one area in particular. And throughout the year, they were in abundance, and some of them very tame. They would almost come up to me. So in the time lapse, I would experiment with it, and there was a tree there that was quite fascinating. So I did that. This is just segments of the video that's online. A number of various butterflies and a lot of different insects that were in abundance. There's a beautiful little curved area. Now that area can flood as high as the grass that you see there, and it can go down to virtually just a trickle. It's quite fascinating how high the water does change over the course of a year. And we had lots of heron in that area, and I was fortunate enough to view a heron catching and eating a fish. It's amazing what they can actually devour without chewing. They have to position it in their mouth first, usually head first, and live. And it's quite an ordeal, I'm sure, for the fish. And it's amazing how they can swallow it down in one gulp, and then you'll see them take a drink and kind of wash it down. But I've seen that a number of times in different areas. And they in one picture you'll see on how he attempted later on how he attempted to catch one that was way too big. The spiny soft-shelled turtle is an endangered species in this area, but they're actually quite abundant. I've found them in numerous areas throughout, and the Basque, there's a variety of different turtles, painted, box, map turtles, all within the area. Then one day I was watching this snapping turtle, and he just kind of waltzed away, and there was a little tiny turtle the whole time just hovering around at the same time. Lots of carp, various fish. There's gars. There was one time I saw 17 gar in one area. They're kind of a pike fish. This was a beautiful spot that I used to walk under every day. And I had done a time lapse for that one also. And the variations over the year were amazing. This groundhog didn't even realize I was there taking the pictures. I was even talking to him. There are lots of muskrat in the area. Lots of raccoons. I'm sure a lot of people have had experience with those. They're beautiful in the wild. There's beaver also. And I was fortunate to be walking through the Woodcock Pond'S area, and had seen this fellow going from one pond to the larger pond. And he knew I was there, but he just waddled away on his own. But yeah, there's a numerous beaver, and you'll see lots of traces of that, of course, with the gnawed wood and the lodges, kingfishers, various warblers and woodpeckers all throughout the area, hawks, and lots of eagles, which is beautiful to see. And I bring those up later in another area. There's mergansers, again, lots of variations in the wildlife in the area, which is fascinating. You wouldn't know that until you stop and just kind of sit by a riverbank or in the middle of a woods and just be overwhelmed with all the different creatures that are around. A lot of people ask me, how come you can see all these things and I don't when I walk through? Well, a lot of times you just have to kind of sit and be quiet and still, and they kind of appear if they know that there's no people around. But yeah, there's a wide variety of snakes and toads. And so this video actually was, I was asked to use it, or they asked to use it for the Berlin Philharmonic in Germany for the Magic Flute. And so they used that as the backdrop from London, Ontario, as the backdrop for the Magic Flute. In Cairns Woods, it's a beautiful area just beside the Hunt Club. And it's kind of like a loop. And it's a very interesting area. Lots of deer, and not so much now since all the development. This is more in the last, this was probably about 10, 15 years ago, but you don't see as much wildlife. You can see them crossing the river, and just a beautiful sight. And later on, you see that they, come down the river for drinks. But quite tame. A lot of times they've seen the people. They know they're probably not going to get shot, so they sometimes they'll even kind of get closer out of interest. Lots of herons in the area also. This one was catching a lot of little goldfish that people actually leave in the ponds. Not a very good idea. You'll see one where he picked it up and it was quite large that it had grown to. And this is the one here. Takes it back, and again, all in one gulp, head first down the gullet, and has to get a drink to wash it down. But boy, that's quite an achievement to see a heron swallowing a fish whole like that. There's the one that I was telling you about. That heron tried to eat that fish and it finally gave up because it was just too big. He couldn't do it. Egrets are in the area, much more so now in the Coves area. I'll show you that later. A lot of egrets in the area. This Muscovy duck was interested in coming to visit me. He just came out of the water and came over, and he saw that I was eating cheesies and asked for a free sample. and just waddled away. He did come back continuously for more after that. We have wood ducks in the area, and I actually saw a whole flock of little new wood ducks, young wood ducks, just recently. A lot of varieties of ducks in the area, and geese, of course. You probably see more geese than you'd like to, but yeah, a lot of beautiful variations of different ducks. They come and go through migration, the glebes and the buffleheads, and we have it just escaped me the name there, but anyway, mergansers, and then the terns come every spring, and they pretty well might stay for a year. The swifts, I should say, and they inundate the area looking for bugs, and then they move on. The finches and the chickadees and the hawks. So there's an eagle, a young eagle, that was just inside the woods as I was walking by, and he had just captured some prey.
What are you doing?
And so there was.
Sorry.
I'll just pause it for a sec.
That was just background noise.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So there's an osprey here. He's in the tree, and he just dove down and caught that fish. They're amazing hunters. Turkeys in the area. Actually, they're in the trees too. It scared the heck out of me one time when there was a flock of turkeys up above me in the trees. The spiny soft-shelled turtles, again, have their certain spots that they hang out, and they hang out with other varieties of turtles, map turtles, and there's another snapping turtle, painted turtle. There's lots of turtles in the area. Again, I don't see as much as I used to. My friend Pat and I, we traverse down the Thames in 2 different areas, right through the city. Beautiful trip if you ever want to take that. You'll see lots of wildlife. You never know you're actually in the city. Most of it. Tiniest little toads in there, and you have your chipmunks and a lot of different rodents. There's well, of course, squirrels and raccoons and muskrat. I've seen mink, and you'll see some later on. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be as much raccoons either in Kane's Woods. I haven't come across nearly as much wildlife as I used to in that area, and I think it has a lot to do with the development in that area. As I'm sure you're aware that they're building that up quite a lot. And I even hang out in the evening and see. Now this young guy, he posed for me right for the nickel. He just fit perfectly there. One day, 2 coyotes snuck up on me. And when I stood up, they were intimidated and they took off. But there are coyotes in the area. I followed this bat around one time during the day, and he actually led me to an eagle's nest that was there, way up there in the tree. And so I followed them for about 3-4 months as they developed, even to the night that they left the nest. And the parents would be feeding them fish all day, and you'd see them coming in. Sometimes with fish, sometimes just to visit. They would hang out in the woods in behind. You can see that big fish there. I ended up making a video on YouTube all about the encounter with the eagles for that 3-month period. It was just a beautiful sight to see how they were developing and how they were practicing their flights, how to building up their strength in their wings. They would hold on to the nest and then bounce back and forth between the nest and the branches, and just practicing a lot, and then finally taking off one day. It was quite a beautiful experience to see them, and then they would hang out with their parents for a while. There's a few nests now in the area. I think there's one south of Delaware now. This nest doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. They abandoned it, and nature took it back, and there's no evidence of that nest anymore at all. They even saw them in the winter months for a bit. Medway Creek is another beautiful area to go through. They've closed a lot of the trails off since then, but there's still a lot of butterflies and dragonflies and the such. And what I found there was a lot of frogs in that area. There's salamanders, but there's a numerous variety of frogs. And you go there in the evening, you had quite a chorus of sounds around that pond there. And there's a lot of fish, and of course the ducks, they were in abundance there too. Blue jays, woodpeckers, So then, and then a lot of turkeys in the area. I hear them a lot, and then fox too. I watched a fox take a turkey, and that wasn't very pleasant. But anyway, so then this is Westminster Pond'S area, which unfortunately gets a lot of very muddy, and it's hard to traverse many times, especially with all the rain that we've been getting. But it's a beautiful area, and there's they're telling people don't release the goldfish because it is a problem. You see pileated woodpeckers in there, but I just haven't gone there that much because of the mud. There's a lot of mud, even though they have the boardwalks. Clearly Woods is a beautiful spot for various birds. In the field there's a lot of larks and finches and grosbeaks and wrens, and pretty well all the different types of birds in the area hang out in that area. The orioles and the ducks also, again, the vultures. Found one there feeding on a fish, and lots of geese again patrolling up and down the riverbeds. Herons in abundance there too. You'll see many of them. There's a lot of people fishing in that area too, so there's kind of a competition for fishing in more in that area than anywhere else. This bird, I'm going to just pause it just for a second, because this bird is quite fascinating. If you've ever interested in it, it's American woodcock, and I've seen them a few times. That one picture was the best picture I could get of it, but you can see the long beak and the such on it. But they have the craziest walk and mating ritual you ever see. If you ever want to look it up on YouTube, they're quite an interesting bird, and they're in that Claley Park, and I've seen a few of them, but fortunate to only get that one picture. That wasn't my picture that you just saw there. A lot of osprey in the area. There's 11 nests actually right now in London area, just reflecting how much fish there must be, because there's the herons and the egrets and the eagles and lots of competition for fish. And with 11 nests of osprey in this area right now, and they're just a beautiful bird to watch. And was fortunate to watch that nest in Claley. They abandoned that one, and now they're on the lights over on the other side by the playground, the playing field. There you see the occasional eagle in there too, and there's muskrats in the creek that runs into the Thames at that area. And of course, you know, the regular friendly rodents. You always see this guy wasn't so friendly. He wasn't happy that I was sharing the trail with him. He'd rather have had me go. A mink was running across the field in front of me just late spring. And you'll see snakes and, you know, the minnows and pretty much the same sort of creatures that you see throughout. But it's just beautiful that anywhere you go in London, you can find these places. There's probably a dozen places in London that you would never know that you are actually in London if you were in the middle of these places. It's just beautiful, fascinating spots, and we're so lucky. I've lived in a lot of areas, but very few have had the abundance of wildlife within the city and the natural areas. It's just a wonderful city to be living in for that reason, especially. And then I was fortunate, it was just last spring, there was 5 of them that came down to the river for a drink. And so they're just walking along, and they don't pay much heed. They knew I was there, but they were fine with that. But as I was telling you, there's lots of deer, and I tend to take a lot of deer pictures because they all seem to have their own little personalities. And they're all quite different from each other, and it's beautiful. And so this is the Coves area that I just recently have been spending a lot more time in this area. You'll see deer almost guaranteed there anywhere you go, and a lot of herons. There's about 4 or 5, lots of turtles. But what I was really surprised to see was the egrets. I'd only seen one before in years, and now there was up to 16 at one time I saw. In the evenings, they roost in the trees. And again, they do a lot of fishing in the area. But it's fascinating to see so many egrets and lots of turtles, of course, in the ponds. Beautiful area. It's not considered a park. It's a private property owned by Sherman Williams. I saw a whole family of raccoons going up and down the tree. That's a night heron. There's green herons also. There's the wood ducks. And then the cemetery, Woodland Cemetery, if you ever want to have a guarantee on seeing some ponds, you go to Woodland Cemetery. Then, of course, in our backyards, I've seen many types of birds in the backyard of the feeders. I also, have groundhogs and skunks and squirrels and chipmunks, which I don't try to get rid of. I let them have the yard. I saw a cardinal teaching the young one where to get the food, and it ended up going right to the feeder. I had even a parakeet stay around for a while. The chipmunks, like to go to the bird feeder. Everybody's at the feeder. The squirrels, the groundhogs and skunks hang out at the bottom waiting for the dribs. But it's I just enjoy all the different wildlife that we have in the city. We're just so fortunate to be able to have all this. I talk to people in other areas, in other cities, and they just are jealous of what we have here. And I just fascinated by what we have in this town. So this is basically wrapping up what we have. This is the different backyards. I did cheat a little bit. That's a northern flicker that came in recently. Lots of skunks, but I cheated the Alcea owls. Those owls, actually, I have seen a couple in London, but I haven't been able to take some really good pictures of them. So I did insert the pictures I had from Barrie in my backyard there, but I hadn't been able to get a good shot of the owls in my particular backyard, only the one I had in Barrie. So this was for my yard in Barrie. It was beautiful to have the owls. This again, a Woodland Cemetery in your own backyard again. And this guy was right across the street from me. So I've incorporated a lot of the creatures, particularly the birds, in a lot of drawings and artwork I've created. That I'm really interested in Indigenous art and try to incorporate that style. And so over the past few years, I've just taken pictures that I've had and turned them into pieces of art. And that's what I do. Then in my free time, I just carve and play in 3D programs. There's an amazing program called the Blender that you can make your own 3D creatures and have them, I've animated them, put them on my website and a YouTube site. And, they're inspiring. The animals and the wildlife in this area really have done a lot for me and kept me sane through all the rest of the activities in my life. And it's a great place to hang out. And hope you enjoyed the show, because that's it. Anybody still there?
Yes, we're still here. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I am going to stop your screen sharing.
Yep.
And then we are going to open it up for question and answer, if that's okay with yourself.
Sure.
Go ahead if anyone has a question for John.
Hi, Jan.
Hi, John. I didn't see any otter.
I haven't seen any otter here. I hear that they're around, but I have yet to see one. But I heard that they were in the area.
John, I wasn't able to get in on everything, but there are otters for sure. They're in the ponds and behind the food basics at Wonderland and Fanshawe Park Road.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Beautiful walkway back there.
Yeah,
and you can see the otters in the river as well at the end of Gainsborough. If you walk through the park and get down into the thing in the water there by the river, you can see the otters in there.
Oh, great. Well, that'll be a destination for sure. Thanks.
They're in the river. Yeah, they're in the riverbed ponds too. I've seen them there.
Yeah, I've never seen them there, but always looking for them, but have yet to see one.
And John, there are owls that nest in Gibbons Park every year.
Found that out this year just after they had gone. Apparently, I belong to this group called Lawn on Facebook, and it's the London Area Wildlife Network. and it's a unbelievable sight. The pictures people are taking and what they're finding in the city. I've just touched on some of these things, but there's some amazing photographers too, what the pictures they're taking. So if you're ever interested in more of this, you go onto the Facebook site LAWN, and you'll be amazed at what's in our city and the beautiful photography.
John, you mentioned that you have a website or a YouTube channel. Can
The
you
YouTube
share
channel,
that?
yeah.
Can you share that in the chat for people that want to check out your?
Sure. It's basically Johnny Martineau. It's with a NNY instead of the John. Johnny's actually my real name, but anyway, yeah. So it's Johnny Martineau and on the YouTube channel. So yeah, I have quite a few of the stop frame videos there of the Kilworth area.
Are there other questions? So John, you and I were talking earlier before the meeting started, and you said you're not a photographer. And I beg to differ.
Well, no, I just happen to be in the right place at the right time. I you know what? I look at what's on lawn, and I know I'm not a photographer. These people are amazing.
Okay, so you say you have to be in the right place at the right time, but how often are you in the right? You've got a lot of incredible photos that don't just happen when you're out for a walk on a trail.
Well, actually, they do, but I do spend a lot of time out there. So I know you, Don, you know me as a Goodwill manager, but I don't. Times a week, maybe, and I'll spend 3-4 hours at a time there, many times coming out in the dark. So yeah, you have to spend the time to see what I saw. Yeah, for sure.
So you are investing a lot of time into this as a hobby.
Yeah, but it's investing in my well-being, because it does me a lot of good, believe me. Yeah.
Harry.
John, you say you're not a photographer, but you're obviously taking some of these photos with more than just an iPhone.
Right. You know what? I am so bad at photography that I couldn't even tell you that I have a Canon I just bought. I had a Sony, and I had I can't remember the name. Anyway, I'm not a technical guy when it comes to stuff like that. I buy a camera and I take pictures with it. The people will tell you, oh, you know, they have this lens and that lens and all this. I don't even keep track of any of that. I just shoot.
Fair enough, but you've obviously, for some of those shots, got some kind of a telephoto or a tripod to keep it steady. Some basics like that.
No, I've never used a tripod. I found it very frustrating for a tripod. For what the time lapse pictures, you would think I would use a tripod. I couldn't, because of the year, it changes so much with the weather and the snow and everything else. So what I did was I located myself against a certain tree, and I would frame it and to what was around me. And then I would put them in Photoshop, and I would line them all up in Photoshop. And then that's how I got the accuracy of them seeming smooth, but they weren't certainly that smooth in the actual photographs.
And the other question I had was, you mentioned that 3D thing. Like, is that you create it and then you print it in a 3D printer, or how do you?
No, actually, a 3D, you can develop modeling in 3D within the software. So you can create your own characters, and then you can, you know, model them to fly around and follow them around. So I have a couple very short videos on my YouTube channel that I use that. I made a heron, and it just had them flying around through the swamp. And that.
So 3D imagery, not 3D objects.
Right, correct.
Okay,
correct.
okay.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. But it's a fascinating program. It's called Blender. It's free. And you can just go on there and you can create almost anything, architecturally, animation, clay. You can even do modeling in clay. It's an amazing program, and it's all free. It's well supported by a lot of tutorials and groups that support you. So if you're ever interested in that sort of thing.
In all our free time as Rotarians.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any other questions for John? If not, so John, In recognition of your presentation to our club today, a contribution has been made to the Polio Plus campaign of the Rotary Foundation to immunize 50 infants against polio. Because of you, Rotary is one step closer to a polio-free world. And I know you've only been a Rotarian for less than half a year now, but I think you probably understand Polio Plus and what it means to Rotary. So thank you very much for your presentation today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to show it, and I hope you got something out of it.
Our first announcement, Heather, are you here? Did you want to talk about the golf tournament?
I am here. Yes, golf tournament still sitting at 16 teams. I have 2 maybe teams. John Diaktis can pipe up in a minute and talk about auction, but I know we are low on those. I have sent everything to the printers today. So thank you to the many of you who have stepped up, and we did fill all of our games and competitions. Now we just pray for great weather. So if you can source auction items, John will give you all that contact detail here in a minute. Thanks.
Thanks, Heather. I'll put my, I think most people have my email now, but I'll put it up in the chat. Yeah, still looking for many things. Some people have said that they do and will be sending a donation. Even if I don't get the donation itself and you bring it to the game day in September, that'd be awesome. Just let me know if it's a gift card or what it is exactly, so I can get the sheets done ahead of time before we get to the golf tournament. And that way we can have everything well in advance to make sure it runs smooth that day. So yeah, I'll put my name in the chat right now to get a hold of me, and that'd be awesome to get some more donations. If you know anybody else, other Rotary, anywhere else, just yeah, get as many folks involved as we can.
And then East Coast Kitchen Party, I don't think there are any more details yet, but please save that date, Friday, October the 8th for it. And I did want to remind anyone, if you know someone who is about to graduate from university that is resident in our district, and there is a Rotary Global Grant Scholarship available for graduate level studies at a university outside of Canada and the US for the 2022-2023 academic year. And it's worth up to $30,000 US, and more details are available on either our Facebook page or the district website. And then what other? Rick, do you want to talk about Environment Day? Rick was here.
There, I had to unmute, Don. Yeah, just we had a whole swarm of new registrants, which is great. So we're going to have a big enough team for the planting on Saturday, October the 2nd. The specific details in terms of where we meet, where we park our vehicles, and all of that will be coming out closer to the event. But it's essentially going to be a couple hours at max on Saturday morning, October the 2nd. I saw that David Wells is on this call, and Keith is. I will be in touch with you guys, sending you a copy of the invoice and asking you each to get a check cut for 50% of the invoice amount, and so I can deliver that. And I'll need once the check's clear, I'll need to have some images of those, because it's part of our reporting process to get the district grant money. That we've been approved for a district grant of $1,000, equivalent $1,000 US. So we'll be getting some money back that we'll be sharing with the satellite club.
Thank you. And Diane, you had an announcement?
Yes, I do. I apologize, I was late on the meeting today, so if this was already talked about, I apologize, but I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out last Thursday. I think it was an amazing, great time. But one thing I may have neglected to say in my frantics was I wanted to thank Dawn and Danielle for supplying all the refreshments for the evening. I don't know if I told people that, and it was extremely generous and kind, and they did an amazing job with the great wines and the great everything was local. And I do apologize, Don, if I forgot to make that announcement. I'm not the greatest host in the world, but I wanted everyone to know. So thank you again for your generosity and kindness.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements?
Don, yes, I have a further announcement. It relates to the fact that as part of the strategic plan that the club has adopted, one of the goals over 5 years is for us to increase our voluntary service hours. And I think the objective is to get to 10,000 hours a year of service by Rotarians and our better halves in 5 years during a year. So in keeping with that, we're already doing some service. Diane, past President Diane, has organized with the Canada Blood Services and the London Food Bank. But I've been in touch with John Diactis, and he's put me in touch with their volunteer coordinator with the Center of Hope and the Salvation Army. And there's a few opportunities that I'm going to be communicating to the club about that, where we can add some volunteer work. This will be in addition to our volunteering to assist with the Christmas kettles, assuming that they will be a go this year. One of the things is coming up near the end of September, and it all hinges on when we find out whether we have a food bank commitment near the end of September. But one of the fundraisers the Salvation Army is doing is called Construction. In other words, CAN-struction, not construction. And this is where groups, engineers, architects, and that design and build with canned food, statues and things like that down at White Oaks Mall. And then they get judged by a committee, and I don't know what the prize is, but that food will ultimately end up being distributed to needy people that the Salvation Army identify. And they'll need some assistance in deconstructing, which and that's not pushing them down so they all fall down and collapse, but deconstructing by way of taking the cans out and putting them in boxes, similar to what we do, I guess, at the food bank in a sense. But we look at they said they probably have a need for 10 Rotarians, so you may see a communique from me relating to that specific project coming up during September, and looking for volunteers. The other thing is that they do have a need for people to assist relating to the Christmas toy drive. This is where this would be solo, where they need Rotarians that would, it's almost like a call center operation with a computer, in that they get a lot of requests, thousands of requests and identify specific needs and toy wishes from kids. And there's a follow-up process, and there is training for this role, but this would be something that would be done at the Salvation Army at the Center of Hope situation building, and following up with just clarifying to make sure that they have the right record for the child and the type of toys, et cetera, et cetera. So those would be things that would be done over time. And the other thing will be that when the food hampers start to get built, they'll need help filling food hampers and things like that. So there's going to be work related that we can be doing with the Salvation Army over the course of the next few months.
Thank you, everyone. A reminder that our Rotary motto is serve to change lives, and have a great week. Thank you.